Hey everybody, welcome to the Dreaded Bang. My name is Lou, and today I want to talk to you today a little bit about endings, or the ending. Well, I was talking to a friend of mine, her name's Mo, that's all I'm going to say. She was telling me how she didn't like the end of a certain series that, we're going to talk about a little later in this video, and how it ended, and how certain characters didn't get the resolution they deserved, which I was completely in agreement with. But then I also started thinking about how angry I was getting about the ending, and I was like, wait a minute, am I angry because the things I wanted to happen didn't happen, or is it because I feel the writers had fell short? And maybe it's a mixture of both. And what I mean by that is that I believe that hype kills a series, at least at the ending, at the final stages of any show. If you are so hyped on the outcome of it, and that you have such high hopes for it, it's probably going to be a flaccid, inconsistent mess of an ending. Now, this doesn't happen with all shows, but it happens with a lot of shows. And right now I want to talk about 3 examples. And the 3 examples, maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, but I kind of feel they have a similar like, how can I put this in a kind way? They have a similar outcome to this show that I'm talking about, which, like I said, we'll talk about later. Okay, so this first example I want to bring up, it's involved where the author, you're like, picture this, you're an author of a very popular series, shonen, a series of books, a movie series, a TV series, whatever. You are literally like the man with the keys to the castle, and you are given so much like responsibility and everything. You have this great series, everybody loves it, everybody's like so excited for your characters, your world building, everything you got. And then the fandom sets in. And what's the fandom? The fandom is, where they're a bunch of nameless people, maybe, nameless, shapeless people. They're just this whole, bottomless pit of people that just come out of nowhere and they swallow up something that's unique. And that's not, trying to be foul towards a fan base or anything like that. Like, if you have a fan base, that's fine. But what I'm saying is that we often forget that we are this unsatisfiable, almost like just force of nature. As a fan, you're just a force of nature when you're a part of this huge grouping of people. And collectively, your expectations are so high that no author or writer can really match up to it. Now, the example I was going with was Naruto. With the ending of Naruto, Masashi Kishimoto, he was trying to, at least in my opinion, it felt like he was trying to check all the boxes and give everybody basically what they wanted, instead of ending it on a relatively like factual or something that makes sense basis, like something that actually like triggers you to make like, oh, okay, that's a logical ending to this. But I feel this way because now I think about the end of Naruto. They like Naruto, Sasuke had their big fight. They lose their arms and then they become friends again. Now, I don't got no problem with that. I don't have a problem with happy endings. No problem at all. But I almost felt like Sasuke was a war criminal, and yeah, he might have helped save the world, but he still was a war criminal. He killed the last Hokage candidate and stuff like that, and then like he just gets pardoned and leaves. I mean, granted, they didn't give him his arm, so I guess that's punishment, or I guess he didn't choose to get the arm. Anyway, basically, back to what I'm saying is the series felt flaccid to me because I felt like nothing was logically ended. I feel like it was just kind of like trying to make sure everybody knows, oh, well, these guys you got the ending you wanted. They're friends again. Now they're making babies with the people you wanted to make babies with. And I feel like he had so much pressure on him to make it perfect that it almost just completely flattened the series. And that's not cool. But it happens when the fandom comes along and they have so much hype and they ship certain characters and they want certain narratives to happen. It immediately like takes away certain things from the series, like it takes the teeth out of the series. Like Mike Guy should have died. Mike Guy's one of my favorite characters, but he should have died. Kakashi should have been blind. I'm sorry, he should have been blind a long time ago, but he should have been blind at the end. But I don't know. It's in the long and short of it is I understand where he was coming from, but the series ended so poorly because really it came down to the fact that he had a lot of pressure on him. He had so much hype to pay off, but he couldn't. And that's just a part of being a writer. So I mean, it kind of comes with the territory. The second example I have is Bleach. Now, Bleach to me, the writer Tite Kubo, he's a decent writer. Now, Bleach was never a super strong series. It was a decently strong series. It had good lore and well designed characters. Even though everybody was like 145 pounds and they are like 6'4". I don't get what that was about. That was a little weird. But I mean, to be fair with you, the Bleach storyline wasn't horrible. It wasn't a bad storyline in the least. It was actually pretty entertaining to say the least. But I feel that at the end, I guess because from what I read, I think he said they were gonna just stop Bleach altogether, and they told him he could just have like a couple volumes or like a volume to end the series, which is mostly like 3 to 4 chapters. So he had like 3 to 4 chapters to end the series completely. Something that he's been working on since 2001. He had ended in 2013, 2014. So that was 12, 13 years on the series, and he was like, oh well, just finish it, just be done with it. And I feel like he was going somewhere with it, but because he had that pressure from his editors and the fact that he was his nest egg or his show that he had really put a lot of effort into it was just ending, didn't feel right. So I guess this type of writer or this type of creator is the type that just hits the fuck it button, just hits that fuck it button and just immediately goes with whatever. And I can't really blame him for that. And he doesn't. I'm not saying like this isn't necessarily like fan hype, but it's the fan expectation that was ruined. But it wasn't really his fault. You picture you're in his shoes. You have something that you built like that, and then you're being told by your editor or your publishing company that, oh well, it's not as hot as it used to be, so you should probably end it within this next like half a book or a book. And it's very discouraging and it's very like disheartening to like be told that this thing that you worked on, that you put your heart and soul in, isn't good enough anymore. That people's tastes have changed. That they want something different. They like this series over here. And I can understand where he's coming from, so I can't really like blame him for that. So he did what he wanted. He ended the show the way he wanted. He didn't end it with a lot of resolutions. He ended it with like basically a flash forward and did the same kind of ending with Naruto, where everybody ended up making babies with everybody else, and they had their tight knit group of friends. It was fine, but there was a huge gap in between from final battle to happy ending, and it's a huge chunk missing. With the explanation being just like, oh, they did a thing. That's it. And the hype that when I'm talking about hype in regards to this show ending, it's the hype that wasn't met, but it wasn't either party's fault. Because we were hyped because if you were a fan of Bleach, you loved Bleach for like all its inconsistencies. Even like when it was crap, you still loved it. You still love Bleach regardless of the 35 episodes of filler and the nonsensical like side characters that didn't make any damn sense. It was just garbage, but you still loved it. And if you were like me, you were kind of disappointed by the ending because you wanted so much more, but it wasn't met. So you just had to go with what was available, and you still feel kind of like empty at this point. The third kind of ending is the ending where I feel the writer or the people in charge just dropped the ball entirely. And this is where we're going to get to, of course, Game of Thrones. I feel the show had a lot of hype on it. And I feel like all these trailers and these little snippets and all these like, oh man, this is going to be the final season. Who's going to end up on the Iron Throne? All this stuff. They basically fed this monster that is fandom. And because they fed this monster and it became so huge and so unstoppable that they couldn't come out on top. They couldn't stick the landing. No matter how good that writing was, they would never be able to stick that landing like you would hope. Now, I want to compare it to another show, Breaking Bad. A lot of people didn't like the ending of Breaking Bad. I love the ending of Breaking Bad. I think it ended fantastically. It ended exactly the way it should have ended. Now, if you're not a fan, I get it. Maybe you want Walt to survive or him and Jesse to go off to the sunset and do more blue math or whatever. That's perfectly fine. But the fact of the matter is, Walt was a character who, from the first episode to the last episode, was given a death sentence, and I like that because they paid it off. I can't really think of the terminology, but it's a term in fiction where if you introduce a gun at some point in the story, the gun has to be fired. And I'm glad they paid it off at the end because literally he got shot, but he still died, and that's something that we wanted to see. Like, he was doing all these terrible things, but he had death like this close to him, like just so close, like inch, just like that. And I think that was such a great way to pay it off. Whereas on the flip side of that, Game of Thrones, for me at least, they had built up this huge monster, and they had to say, "Oh man, this is the final season. Who's gonna be the one on top? Who are they gonna stop? Who are they gonna get to stop the White Walkers? Who's gonna be the one to take down Cersei and stuff like that?" And that they built this hype for not one, but like maybe a year and a half, 2 years. They would never be able to meet that, never. And that's technically their fault, but you can tell in the writing and like the way they would interview, the writers and some of the cast members, that they didn't have passion anymore for the series. And that's what I wanted to touch on. The dispassionate ones that in the series, just by saying there, it's over. And what I mean by that is like some of the concepts they introduced in that series did not make any sense to me. The ending just completely fell flat, and it just didn't matter at that point. Like nobody, like I couldn't be invested. I remember watching it with my girlfriend, and we were just sitting there, and she didn't never see the series. She saw the ending with me. She was like, "What's going on?" She was like, "What's a bunch of crazy magic and crap going on? Whatever, it's bullshit." And I was like, "Yeah, well, if you stuck around it for like most people, the show was something to like really be entertained by." But after a while, it just became a mess. And then you know what? The 8th season wasn't an isolated incident. It was actually the 6th season onward, because they started going like downhill from that season, because you could tell after they ran out of book material that they lost the drive to really stick the landing, and it shows like horribly in this final season they just had a couple weeks ago. But why I really make this video is because I feel that I just want to get this out there for all people who are fans of shows or anything. I want you to remember one thing. If you can like just breeze through this video and just be like, "Oh, well, he was just talking about nonsensical things, nerd shit, whatever." I want you to remember one thing. Your hype will never be met by the writing or the ending of any series. The reason why George R.R. Martin has not finished his series, I think, in my personal opinion, is fear. Because no matter how good his ending is to him and like a certain subsection of people, of fans, it's always going to be that small number of people who still feel like it's garbage. He can't make it, perfect. There are no perfect endings. Godfather, not a perfect ending. It's a good ending, but not a perfect ending. Dark Knight, perfect, not a perfect ending. It's good, but not perfect. And the fact of the matter is that no matter how hard you try, you can't create perfection, but you can try to do better each time. Just try to do the best you can, and then if it's not loved by the fan base, take solace in the fact that you did the best you could. Well, anyway, that was my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like, comment, or subscribe if you'd like to. I'll probably making a video tomorrow. I'm not sure what the topic's going to be. It's probably going to be a little something a little bit more lighthearted than this, but I do appreciate you sticking around and enjoying my face and my voice. I'm a little sick because I got choked yesterday. It was a little weird. Not in a sexual way, but mostly just because I was in jiu-jitsu. But anyway, thank you for watching the video. I will see you tomorrow.